Now, how to stay calm in the middle of a crisis, how to deal with everyday stress, how to improve your health despite aging or other stressors of life. I have an answer for you in 3 simple words. Practice, yoga, daily. Easier said than done, right? You are a busy professional or a busy student or a busy parent or someone else busy. You are super busy with our lives, and adding a new task to your to-do list just sounds overwhelming. What I am offering is to start from baby steps. Just like we learn how to crawl and then walk and then run, the very first baby step, subscribe and listen to our inspirational interviews. Hello, my name is Bibi and I am a certified Iyengar Yoga Teacher, and today I am speaking on behalf of the Iyengar Yoga Association of Vancouver. I hope that you feel inspired and to start or continue yoga practice by meeting and learning from our senior teachers and dedicated practitioners. We will start from very simple introductory questions and invite you for a dialogue. So please write your comments or questions below and we will be happy to answer them next time we meet here. I came to Canada 4 years ago, feeling a bit lost without my family and my friends. And the very first week, I met Louie, my yoga teacher, my mentor, and a very dear person to my heart. Louie Ettling is a founder of the Yoga Space studio in Vancouver. She has been a keen student of BKS Iyengar since she started her yoga studies more than 30 years ago. Louie has regularly studied with BKS Iyengar and his family in Pune, India. She serves on the Professional Development Committee of the Canadian Iyengar Yoga Association of Canada as a mentor of teachers. Louie, hello.
Hello.
Thank you for being on this call.
You're very welcome.
So you've been teaching all different kinds of people on yoga mat, right? Could you give some estimations of the number of your students?
I really I don't think it matters how many students I've had, but maybe what does matter is that many years of hard work comes with experience. So I have met thousands of people over 30 years and seen the effects that yoga can have on people's lives, and also the difference that yoga can make for people and how different it can be from person to person. So the seniority is really nothing but experience.
Right. So talking from the height of your experience, this is why I ask this question, is because when you see so many people on yoga mat, you see a certain pattern, right? So maybe you could like categorize people or say, so what kind of problems people come to in the beginning, what problems they seek to solve when they come to a yoga studio to see you first time?
Sometimes people don't come because of a problem. Sometimes people come because of joy, curiosity, interest, to be fashionable because all my friends are doing it. Very often people come for some reason, but what that reason is can be different. People might come because they have an injury. They might come because they feel stressed. They would like to learn how to unstress, and somebody mentioned that yoga could help with it. People might come because they are very stiff in their body, or they would like to be firmer. Maybe they're too loose in their body. Really, there are as many reasons as there are human beings. I can tell you why I came to yoga. I came to yoga as somebody who enjoyed running. So I was in my mid-20s and I was getting a bit stiff and I felt I can hardly touch my knees and I'm only in my 20s. What am I going to do? So I went to yoga to become a bit more limber. And I had no idea how it would impact my life and the journey that it would result in.
Again, I'm kind of, making a brainstorm or guessing what kind of questions our audience would have, and we're experiencing that it can be like anyone, right, who been practicing yoga or who hasn't been practicing yoga. But my observation is that I have lots of friends who tell me, oh yeah, you are, people who find out about me, like, when I'm saying that I am a certified yoga teacher, said, yeah, I do yoga. It's a very nice stretching. In the beginning, they approach it more as, on the physical level. And I am, so to tell and explain what are the benefits people when they get consistent, right? So in terms of how much time, and is there really like lots of investment of time that you need to put into yoga practice to see the other benefits that yoga promises to you, not just only on the physical level, like not just stretching, right?
Well, we could compare it with any other discipline.
Mm-hmm.
If you were a violin teacher and somebody comes to you and says, how much time should I practice to be able to become a concert violinist?
Right.
The teacher will give a certain answer, oh, you want to be a concert violinist? Well, or somebody comes to you with a violin and says, I want to play fiddle in my local band and I just need 5 chords, or then your whole projection of how much time is needed is going to be different. So really, I don't want to give a specific answer, but what I would say is that what you put into it, it's like living itself. What
Mm-hmm.
you put into it might match what you receive from it. So if you have the luxury of time, the more time you put into it, the more you can experience the benefits. If you are very busy, as you started this interview and you say you're for busy people, then it might be more practical to say, I have 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the evening. And those 15 minutes, that half an hour a day, over a month, a year, a decade, is going to make a very big difference to one's life. Regularity is definitely better. So it's like eating. It's better to eat a little bit throughout the day than once a week, a massive amount.
Yeah.
So, little bits and regularity, and the more you have, the more time you have, the more you can put into it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So is there still, so what you're saying, even like 15 minutes a day is enough on the daily practice, but you need to do it consistently, right? So that means to be committed to your practice, right? Just look to anything else you need to improve and progress.
Yeah. Start with what you have. You have 15 minutes, especially if you're new to it and you haven't yet experienced the benefits. It's hard to start off saying, I'm going to put 2 hours a day into this. But from my experience, not just in my own practice, but in the practices of many different people, the range of people that come to yoga, I have experienced that this will develop over time. So in the beginning, you might say, I have only 15 minutes. But then once you experience the benefits, you might say, it feels so good, those 15 minutes, I'm going to make it 20. And, not that there's a recipe, but again, over time, you might notice that half an hour or the hour that you manage to make in your life will make a difference to your existence.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's a very important observation, that when I first come to the yoga class is that it feels good, right? It's not, yeah. So people don't really can understand, oh, it improved and it affected my nervous system, or but it just feels good, and you experience and you wanted to come back to that feeling and sensations, right, that you had in that yoga class.
Yeah, it's very Pavlovian. That is really how it was for me. So I felt so relaxed after my very, very first class. I wanted to do the next one. And that doesn't mean that it will be everybody's experience. And, sometimes you hear people say yoga is not for everybody, but it is for every body who wants to do it.
What does it mean? Yoga is not for everybody, but it's for, so can you tell a little bit more about?
Well, what we like to say in Iyengar Yoga is that system is designed mind so that we can adapt poses to individual bodies. You know, you might be stiff in your shoulders, and therefore, like using the arm, the wall is a whether you are skinny, whether you are tall, whether you are in your life, you're kind of weak, whether you're over strong, years old, whether you're an athlete who are, you know, wanting to elongate the muscles more. Whoever you are, Mr. Iyengar has said, I will develop a system that it will be adaptable to you. So it's not just one set thing that's supposed to work for everybody. So that's what I mean by every body, every unique physicality, every unique psychology can be adapted for. But at the same experience their yoga class, they might not have my experience. So they might say, oh, I prefer running. So
Right.
That world. But in my experience, many people who come to it stay with it.
Thank you very much, Louie. The very last question that I would like to ask you is about yourself. So some people will be watching this video, will be your students who know a little bit of you, about you, but some don't. So could you tell us a little bit about you, what you started? So how did your yoga journey start?
My yoga journey really started in a bookstore. Secondhand book with old little pictures. I think I paid $1 for the book, still have it, of people doing these strange movements, and I was very curious. But then a while later, I noticed, as I said, that I was quite stiff, and I tried to make some of these movements that I saw in that little book. I very soon realized that I really needed a teacher because I couldn't figure out how to put my feet. And somebody had said to me, oh, you should, if you don't know how to put your feet, you should find an Iyengar Yoga teacher. And I said what most people say, a what? I said, an Iyengar Yoga teacher. So I kind of forgot about that. But when I went to my first yoga class, it was at a community center, just a regular community center class in Vancouver. I walked in and guess what this teacher was teaching? Iyengar Yoga. So that was serendipitous, and I felt immediately that this method worked for me. I really liked it was methodical, it was logical, it felt very sober, and yet, as I said afterwards, I felt so expansive, so relaxed that it appealed to me and I stayed. Mm-hmm. I continued for different reasons from the ones that I entered with, because over long practice, over years, my reasons for being there and what I receive from it changes. It gets sort of deeper, almost like you might come in because you're stiff, you sleep better, and maybe after 2 years it becomes something else. Like any art form, it will deepen and become maybe more subtle. It's a skill level also that improves for people with long time practice.
Right, right. But why did you decide to become a teacher, a Iyengar Yoga teacher?
You know, it wasn't really a decision that I sat back and made. I became very dedicated to the practice per se. I wanted to be a practitioner, and I realized that that's what I wanted to do with my life, is practice more yoga. And for me, it was the journey people. But I certainly didn't start off thinking I'm going to be a yoga teacher. It was the last thing on my mind, but it came out of my practice, I would say. And still to this day, I consider myself in the first place a practitioner by sharing with people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that, if you can correct me, that, but there was saying something like Mr. Iyengar always reminds you, like, even if you are a teacher, you are still the student, right? So like being the always learner and always learning from your own practice and from your students.
Yes. Well, in our system, we also have an understanding that, you know, the best teacher is the teacher who is able to encourage and support the students to have their own independent practice, mm-hmm. their own independent experience on the mat, even at home. That is, the practitioner is not dependent on the teacher, but is maybe inspired, encouraged, supported, helped, given ideas, all of those things. So a teacher can be very important to a student. But it is ultimately developing the skills and the sensitivity within one's own physical intelligence that a teacher can enhance in a practitioner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard a very important word, independence. I feel that especially in these times when, we are, many of us are, isolated, or studios are closed and have limited our movements in the city, that's a younger practice, especially the way how we pay attention to educating, to teaching our students that, to understand what they are doing and why they are doing, and the preciseness in postures, right? That's also, so how did you experience the difference that came with the current situation with COVID, with your teaching and with your own practice?
Yes, well, it's very different to be receiving a practice like this, which is also an energetic practice, on a screen. But it helped very much to keep in mind that for the practitioner, for the student on the mat, they still have their own body. In fact, the screen can maybe help them in some ways to stay connected to themselves, because on the screen it's so far removed. So there's pros and cons, but ultimately we do need the real class environment, just like you have the best music experience in an actual live concert hall, rather than, just on a Zoom kind of concert. But in a time when you can't get together, it's a gift to be able to have access from different people from all over the world, sharing their knowledge and their experience. And many people felt that they broadened their horizons, they broadened their yoga horizons. And sometimes they could maybe get something for free also that didn't cost them money. It was a lifesaver, but it's inadequate. It's not the whole picture, but it could help.
Right. So we became kind of, creative with
Yes.
our today's practice, in terms of, even if you cannot go to the studio, you still can find lots of online sources. But I do keep in mind that it's very important to receive that important feedback that we receive from a teacher, when a teacher can see my body and can see something that I cannot see, right? So giving me different perspective. That's also very important, right? In your development, in your growth, in understanding your own self.
Absolutely, yeah.
Let me ask you the very last question, Louie. If you could be asked to give only one advice to the audience, to our audience, what would you say?
I would say that you are the only judge of what is going to be beneficial in your life. People have all kinds of things to say. There are millions of self-help books, but if you're curious about yoga, the best way to test that curiosity is to go take a class. You can always go from there and say, it's not for me, or I really got something out of it. But often what stops us from finding out is to start to find out. So I would say, go meet some teacher just to start, and then you can experience for yourself if there's an effect and how that is.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I would say the same. Is
Yes.
I totally agree with you, because with these inspirational interviews and talks that we plan to have and we are having here, is we can talk like hours and hours about what benefits the yoga can bring, right? But unless you open the mat and start practicing and really experience with your body, right, that it feels good, that it makes difference, it will be just still worse, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's an experiential philosophy.
Mhm.
And as Mr. Iyengar liked to say, yoga is my meditation. So he developed a system of asana, movements of the body, where the movement of the body, the so-called pose, the asana, the position of the body, can create a lot of focus also in the person. It's not just an exercise. It develops all these other qualities that go with the movement.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that, I think you can't really get from a book, and you can't just get from all the hearsay. That you have to experience that in your own body.
Right, right. Thank you very much for you, Louie. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Yeah, thank you for the conversation. I enjoyed it.
Thank you very much for your time, and I hope that it's the beginning of a conversation, and that we will have more questions from the audience, that we will be able to come back and have this dialogue later. So, dear friends, if you do want to stay calm in the middle of this crisis, if you want to deal with everyday stress, if you just follow one wise advice from our dear teacher Louie, that's start practicing yoga and do it on a regular basis, and you will feel, for sure, no doubts, you will feel the benefits of it. Thank you very much, Louie. Talk to you. Bye-bye.
Bye.